Thank you, Mr. Norton. Please state your name and address, sir.
Chuck Hardesty, Bachelor Ave. There are some of us that appreciate seeing the night sky, meteor showers, those type of things. I can appreciate the people that are in an intersection, but street lights down a dead-end road really don't seem that necessary. Pay for it if you want it on, or if you want everything lit, move back to the city.
Gentleman at the microphone, please state your name and address, sir.
Yeah, Paul Dick, 36 Lindo Road. I'd like to concur with the last speaker. I think he's right. I mean, light pollution is one form of pollution that's just as bad as a lot of the other we hear about. But concerning turning it back on for for the RMLD, knowing how they're spending their money these days, I don't know if I want to give them additional money. And as far as the assumption that lights on makes it safe, I'm not quite sure. The chief just said that there's no indication that numbers are down or up, crime is up because the lights are on. On my street, we had a rash of tire slashings happen last year, and I only have one old, very dim light in front of my house. It sure didn't stop one person from slashing both my car tires and my neighbor's tires, and slashing multiple cars up and down the neighborhood during a month, or probably during a year to 18-month time period. So the assumption that lights on leads to safer streets, I just don't buy it. And I think that for the amount we can save here, I think we should vote to not appropriate these funds.
Okay, you've heard the discussion, you've heard the debate. Are you ready for the question? Okay, on the motion, which is for $25,000 to be appropriated and transferred from cell tower revenue for the purpose of increasing line 45 of the 2003 operating budget. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. The motion is lost. Next, line item 38. Mr. Murphy.
Line 38. Line 38, code enforcement salaries. I move to increase line 38 of the FY 2003 operating budget, code enforcement salaries, by the sum of $24,101, and that said sum be appropriated and transferred from cell tower revenue.
You've heard the motion to increase line item 38 of the fiscal 2003 operating budget by the sum of $24,101. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation, Mr. Sturdivant?
As Mr. Jones so eloquently stated, we do not recommend.
Does the Board of Selectmen wish to make a recommendation, Mr. Murphy?
Board of Selectmen recommends.
Please state your name and address, sir.
My name is Joe Giganti. I am the electrical inspector for the town of North Reading. I've been that inspector for over 30 years. I'm here to ask for your support on line 38 to return the funding and reappoint the assistant electrical inspector. The electrical department has been devastated by the deletion of my assistant, Jim DeCola. Our department takes in $60,000 per year. We each receive $12,500 for all the work that we do in that department. Now that he's deleted, I am asked to do all of that work for $12,500. We worked a combined 37 hours per week. Over 500 permits were taken out so far this year, requiring about 1,300 inspections. As everybody knows, for every new home, it's a minimum of 4 inspections. One for the trench, one for the service, one for the rough, and the other for the final. This is over 100 per month. As many of you know, we also respond to an average of a fire call per week to assist the department in electrically oriented fires. Code enforcement is a major safety issue. We represent you as homeowners from having to accept shoddy workmanship and electrical problems during construction. We are asked to inspect additions, septics, swimming pools, trenches, jacuzzis, replacement services. I'm having a difficult time responding to all these calls since this has occurred. I'm doing it alone. I'm spending almost 30 hours per week on a project that should be part-time. You do the math, $12,500 for the year without any benefits. We receive no additional benefits. I'm not on any health programs or any of that, or retirement programs or nothing. It's the $12,500. Please vote to reinstate the funding to our department. As you know, we had one of the best tandem of inspectors in the state. We're self-sustaining. Why this occurred, I don't know. I believe there was minimal thought put into it. We were low profile and responded to all the safety requirements within the town. I don't believe we kept anyone waiting to have their work inspected. With all of the buildings that are proposed, there's over 100 homes coming in. The work at the Berry, the possible work at Benevento's, in addition to the commercial work that we're doing now on Concord Street. We have no assistance if I ever get sick or if I need to go on vacation. You tell me, if you could, how we can get along without this. Thanks for your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gigante. Is there any further discussion on the main motion under line item 38? Hearing none. On the motion, which is to increase line 38 of the fiscal 2003 operating budget code enforcement salaries by the sum of $24,101, and that said sum be appropriated and transferred from cell tower revenue. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. The motion is carried. Line item number 35. Line item 35. Mr. Murphy.
Somebody left their warrant and their notes. Line 35, Fire Department Capital. I move to increase line 35 of the FY 2003 operating budget, Fire Department Capital, by the sum of $5,000, and that said sum be appropriated and transferred from cell tower revenue.
Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation, Mr. Sturdivant?
The Finance Committee does not recommend.
Does the Board of Selectmen wish to make a recommendation, Mr. Murphy?
The Board of Selectmen recommends, this is actually a capital item. Some of you may recall at the April town meeting we funded a capital item from the cell tower revenue. This is protective gear and safety equipment for the fire department. The capital budget, as the operating budget has suffered, and it's felt that this funding needs to occur. Thank you.
Mr. O'Brien, Fire Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd like to remind town meeting that back in October, excuse me, of 2001, our small capital, there are two differences. Small capital is 5,000 and under items, 5,000 over more than 5 years is large capital. Small capital budget was slashed by, or reduced by, 17,500. This past year we had 0 small capital allowed in our budget. We requested 90. 21,000 was taken out of small capital. Normally that would occur there was air pack and hose and fittings was moved to large capital and voted on in that section. So we did pick up $21,000 for air pack replacement program and improvement on that. we're down total, 2 years ago to this year, is $81,500 in small capital. This will allow us to purchase some turnout gear for one new call firefighter, replacement program of worn and torn items, and some other technical rescue equipment that we have now found ourselves needing with all the trenching going on in communities with our mini Big Dig and other electrical vaults that we never had before. This is, again, life and safety issue for the firefighters, technical equipment, and protective gear. I would appreciate, although a small amount, it is desperately needed. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. The main motion is for $5,000 to be appropriated and transferred from cell tower revenue for the purpose of increasing line 35 of the fiscal 2003 operating budget. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. Motion is carried. Line item number 61. Mr. Murphy.
Line 61, recreation salaries. I move to increase line 61 of the FY 2003 operating budget, recreation salaries, by the sum of $38,000, and that said sum be appropriated and transferred from cell tower revenue.
Recommendation, Mrs. Rao.
Mr. Moderator, the Finance Committee does not recommend this.
Does the Board of Selectmen wish to make a recommendation? Mr. Murphy.
Mr. Moderator, the Board of Selectmen recommends, this is a position that was cut in the budget process, and after discussion and deliberation, the board felt that it was a quality of life issue here in North Reading and voted to restore this funding. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Gentleman at the microphone.
I have mixed emotions on this one. Oh, Mel Webster, 51 Spruce Road. I have mixed emotions because it's not a public safety item and it's not an educational item. However, we have beautiful recreational facilities in this town, and if we don't maintain them, they're going to go to hell and they're going to be useless. And I think we ought to approve this. We have Ipswich River Park, we have McGuire Field. That's a lot of field to be maintained. And I have seen the reduction in maintenance this year. I'm heavily involved in the soccer program. Yeah, grass can get longer, but sometimes all the grass doesn't get cut the way it used to, and we've seen some reduction in the maintenance at the facilities. And I'd like to see this. They started to build a snack shack facility over at Ipswich River Park. It stands, semi-completed. I don't know what the status of that is. But I think if we don't approve this, we're going to be throwing a lot of money away that has been expended on recreational facilities in the town.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Oh, there is further discussion.
Point of clarification. As I understand, it's for a position which would run recreational programs, not for maintenance of the field.
Mr. Murphy.
It is, in fact, program, not maintenance. It is program need, not maintenance.
Okay. The lady at the microphone, you have the floor. Please state your name and address, ma'am.
Kathy Orr, Lindor Drive, or excuse me, Lillian Drive. I'm just wondering if the soccer programs and the baseball programs, couldn't they raise their fees as the schools have had to have done for user fees and then pay for the maintenance? Is that a possibility?
Question is whether this could be funded through fees. Does anybody wish to answer the lady's question? Mr. Murphy? Mr. Woods? Brian Woods is, well, you'll tell.
Brian Wood, Parks Director. The use of fees goes into the revolving fund. The revolving funds are funds that Parks and Rec does not because they have to. There's no mandate, there's no statute, there's no law that says that Parks and Rec have to generate funds. We do so because we want to reinvest, which we do. 95% of the funds that we generate are placed back into the Parks and Recreation system. It's not one or the other, it's a system. 95% of the funds that we generate get back into the revolving, go back into the Parks and Recreation system. Those are funds that if the board members, the Recreation Committee members chose not to raise,